Welcome to the Bible Reading Journey, where we are traveling from Genesis to Revelation in a year. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're just joining us, welcome to the journey, and just jump in where we are because it's never too late to start. Lighthouse Ministry is happy to be traveling this road with you. Today we are on day number 227 of the Bible Reading Journey. Today's reading itinerary is the book of Ezekiel, chapters 1 through 6. And you might want to pause here and first dive into those readings for yourself. Then join us back here for thoughts about today's journey. And today's journey is titled Ezekiel's Vision and Call. But first, where are we on the Bible reading journey? Well, we've just finished the book of Lamentations, and we now begin the book of Ezekiel. In your text notes, there is an outline of the Old Testament, a recap of where we've been and where we're going. We completed the first section of the Old Testament, the historical books. The historical books portray the birth, growth, development, and discipline of God's covenant people, Israel. And then we completed the second section of the Old Testament, the Poetic Books. The Poetic Books capture the emotions and heartbeats of the men and women that were living during the historical period. And now we are on the third section of the Old Testament, the Prophetic Books. And the Prophetic Books record God's repeated attempts to call his people back to the godly behavior they had abandoned. And we are on section 3A4 of the Old Testament outline. Welcome to the book of Ezekiel. And like Jeremiah, Ezekiel is one of God's messengers. But while Jeremiah was in Jerusalem, Ezekiel was with the Jewish exiles in Babylon. Your text notes also have an outline of the book of Ezekiel to guide us on our journey. And we are at the very beginning of that outline of Ezekiel in section 1A. And in today's reading, we read about Ezekiel's vision from God, his call from God, and his prophecy from God, all of which are intense and unique. But there is something that is common to all of us believers. In chapters 2 and 3, we see Ezekiel being called and commissioned for God's work. We are also called to do God's work. It is our purpose. Ezekiel is told to eat God's word. He is not to merely read it or hear it. He is to ingest it. God's word is to become part of his very being. And this is true for us as well. Reading and hearing God's word is not just an item to check off our spiritual to-do list. His word is to change us and to give us purpose and direction. So, first, we eat God's word. But what do we do after we eat, ingest, and are changed by God's word? Well, then, like Ezekiel, we go and tell the people. We share God's word with others. Question, but what if they don't listen? Well, the answer, Ezekiel 2:5 and 3:11. Tell them whether they listen or not. Our job is to ingest God's word deep into our being and then to share it with others. We are not responsible for their response. We are responsible for our obedience to our job from God. God tells us in Ezekiel 2:6 and 3:9, do not fear them or their words. Do not be afraid even though their threats surround you. Do not be dismayed by their dark scowls. And don't be afraid of them or fear their angry looks. A great reminder to fear God and not man. But another question, what did Ezekiel say after he ate God's word? Well, we see in Ezekiel 3:3, he said, "And when I ate it, it tasted as sweet as honey in my mouth." Thought of the day. We are on a Bible reading journey. But how much of the journey are you allowing into your everyday life? Is the journey changing your thoughts, habits, attitude, words, and behavior? The challenge of the day comes from Ezekiel 3:10-11. First, let God's words sink deep into your own heart. Listen to them carefully for yourself. Then, go tell the people what the sovereign Lord says, and do this whether they listen to you or not. The memory verse of the day is Ezekiel 3:1. And he said to me, "Son of man, eat what is before you. Eat this scroll. Then go and speak to the people of Israel." The text notes contain information on how to find us on YouTube, Facebook, and email. Happy travels today. See you next time. This is Lisa at Lighthouse. God bless.